ROGERS used to come up to my father's real estate office, and my father would take him out to show him property. And I went with them. I went with my father, of course, a lot of times. It was my sister did. And one day, Will Rogers said to my father, "Why don't you get the girls in the movies?" And he said, "Well, I hadn't thought about it." So he says, "Well, I'll tell you what. You bring them up on Monday morning. There's an open casting call. Stand out in front of the studio there, and the director will come out and pick who he wants for that day's picture, whatever they were casting for." And it was like on a Monday morning, we went, and my mother took us, and it was a cold, foggy, regular Culver City day. And we had to get up and our curls done and all that, and we stood out there, and we were kind of at the back of the crowd. There was quite a few people there. And when the casting director was a lady, and she looked around and she said, "Well, I'll take those two girls there in the back." So I think it was sort of maybe prearranged that those two girls would have, and that was the thought we came to be. We went to work that day.
I remember it very well. I don't know why I can remember when I was so little, but I was quite little, 18 months old. And I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember standing out in the cold and freezing to death. He was also very friendly. He wasn't one of these studio bosses like Louis B. Mayer or somebody, where it was up in the ivory tower. He was right down on those sets all the time. And he was, he's friendly. He was just a nice guy. And he was good to all the kids.
Oh, I mean, he loved the kids.
He loved the kids.
Yeah.
He really loved them. He dressed like a hobo. I mean, his clothes that he wore, were just, absolutely just kind of old clothes. He didn't dress up much.
And he sometimes had gravy on his ties sometime, and my mother was so shocked about that his wife let him go out with a dirty tie.
Yeah.
But he didn't think about those things. He was just very kind of a earth man.
Excuse me, Peggy. Do you want a story about Will Rogers that was my mother's favorite story about the man? It isn't about a movie. As you know, he was a great speaker, and everybody in Los Angeles. It was the coup of coups to get him to come to an affair that was held in Los Angeles. And there was a socialite here in Los Angeles that was having a big function. And she said, boy, if she could just get Will Rogers to be there, why, it would be a wonderful, coup for her. Well, I don't know how she contacted him, but asked him if he would come, to this party and speak to her guests, and because he went all over the world talking, and because he was just a great conversationalist and a wit, He went. Of course, it was a huge success, the party. And in several days after the party, the socialite received a bill, a regular bill made out for what his services cost, her. And she was appalled. She just thought that was a free, wonderful thing. And so she contacted him by phone and talked to him and said, "Why, Mr. Rogers, you were our guest at that function. I didn't have any idea you were charging." He said, "If I was a guest, you would have included Mrs. Rogers in the invitation." Mm-hmm. That was my mother's favorite story. That tells you what kind of a man he was.